Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Gina Bianca podcast, where we talk about life, business, entrepreneurship, the beauty industry, and beyond. My name is Gina Bianca, life and business coach, salon owner, educator, mastermind mentor, and your host of the Gina Bianca podcast.
This podcast is brought to you by the Network Salon. The Network Salon is a 10,000 square foot booth rental salon located in Southington, Connecticut. The Network is absolutely amazing. If you're a new guest looking for a stylist, go to our site, thenetworksalon.com, and click Book Now to be matched up with the artist for you. If you're an independent artist looking to make a move and come work with us at the Network, we do have a couple of stations left after our expansion, and then we are full. We hope to meet you soon. Visit our website, thenetworksalon.com, and click Careers to download our Network Career PDF. We can't wait to see you soon and hope you have an amazing day.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Gina Bianca podcast. I am Gina Bianca, and today I have one of my amazing friends interviewing here on the show, and his name is Bryan Boutillier. Bryan is an amazing hairdresser, an amazing person, and I've been working with Bryan for like 5 years now, and we've known each other for over a decade. And I'm so excited that we had time to do this because Bryan is a busy beaver. He's so busy all the time. And he's just a super successful stylist and has the most loyal, amazing, incredible clients. And I'm so excited that we actually had the time to sit down so Bryan can share his story with you guys and so that he can share, how he built that amazing clientele. So everybody, this is Bryan. Welcome, Bryan, to the podcast.
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Woo, welcome. So Bryan, I'm so excited and I want you to just kind of share how you got into the industry, share your story. I know that we met at Paul Mitchell School and it goes back. So please tell everybody.
Way back.
Yeah. So even just like tell people how you got into this.
So I've always, ever since I was a little kid, have always been super creative and artistic. And it runs in my family. I have a lot of artists in my family. And, art was my favorite subject in school. Actually, it was really the only one I liked in school. So college just wasn't the right path for me. And so I started looking at art schools and I kind of was just unmotivated by what my future would lead me to. So I actually had a friend who was at Paul Mitchell, the school. She was a couple years older than me. And she asked me to volunteer to be her model for a haircut. So I went to the school, and as soon as I walked in, I just loved the environment, and it just kind of fell in my lap, but that's what felt right. So I took a chance, and here I am.
Amazing. When did you graduate?
Paul Mitchell, I graduated in 2008.
2008. So it has been over a decade that you've been a stylist and a successful stylist. What did you do after hair school?
So my first job actually was at a salon, which was owned by the same family that owned our school. And I went through a very vigorous training program there. And I worked there for almost 6 years. Yeah.
Did you go through like an intense assisting program? Like, what was that like?
Yeah. So, we start off really just kind of shadowing and learning, basic housekeeping, basic manners, to appear professional. That was the main goal for our salon. We wanted everybody to be really professional. Some would say it was robotic to an extent. I agree with that, but I think now that I'm a little bit older, I have more of an appreciation for, that robotic experience that we had to kind of go through and be trained into, because it really laid out the foundation for what we need to know and how we should act. Clients notice that sort of stuff. And then, as you kind of get comfortable with that, then you can sort of let your personality shine through. And but yeah, I have an appreciation for how tough and vigorous it was. If you asked me back then, I would have had a much different answer. I thought it was kind of torturous, but I wouldn't be the stylist I am today if I didn't have that.
Yeah, and Tiffany.
Yeah, Tiffany
And
is a very good friend of mine.
yeah, and Tiffany was my mentor at Jessica's Color Room. And
Yep.
I started working at Jessica's, and Tiffany was my mentor. She was the person I trained under. She only worked like 12 hours a week, but I would work her night shift with her. And it was like 4 to 8, 4 to 8, 4 to 8. And she would see 2 guests. And she would like my assist. I feel like she kind of duplicated that kind of assisting foundation, excuse me, that foundation. And I remember like, I stood behind her out of sight from the mirror with my hands a certain way, like we don't cross our arms.
No.
Absolutely not. Right. Like at GBH, I used to like grab people's arms and put them down and be like, you're making me nervous. And now I don't think you can touch people like that. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I mean, but at GBH, like if I would stop foiling, turn around, I'd be like, put them down. You're making me nervous. And then they'd never do it again. And it was just like that moment of like, oh my God. Like, but so like for me, my training with Tiffany was rigorous. And I was talking about this at my class yesterday or Sunday. And I was just like, I wouldn't be the stylist that I am if I didn't have that foundation, because that is like, and I love that you said it's robotic, but like it's systematic. And like they always say, like people don't fail, systems fail. So it's like, this is how you do it. And then I like how you said, like, you let your personality shine through after. And I think people really miss out today. Like, I think that stylists graduating school, like really miss the boat on that. Like there's not a lot of salons hiring. There's not a lot of training programs. There's not a lot of like really dedicated salon owners who are like managing a training program. Right. And there's a lot of people going straight from beauty school to booth rental.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that, when I hear situations where students are just graduating school and going into booth rental, I'm immediately just like, no way. There's no way. It took me so long to build up and get to a place where I felt comfortable and confident to rent. But it's a totally different world that we're in. I didn't have the beauty of social media and, those sort of networking and marketing tools. I literally had to just go into a salon with no clients and build from nothing.
Yeah.
But touching back on your training, I think you, out of anybody who didn't work at my first salon, what I'm talking about. You experienced it, because Tiffany, out of anybody that I think has ever worked there, was the most diligent about taking the tools that she learned there and using them in all of the other places that she's been. So I know that you get what I'm talking about.
I totally get it. And that I think it's such a gift, even though it's like miserable during, because like there were times she sent me home. Like she'd be like, you smell like a fucking cigarette, like get out.
Oh God, that never would have been tolerated.
Yeah. She'd be like, get out, like go home.
Yep.
You can't be around my guests like this. And I was like, and then it's like the 45-minute drive home crying.
Right. And you probably thought she was being so mean and over dramatic.
But you know what she did? She would call me after, and she would download with me. And I wouldn't be the salon owner I am today without Tiffany, because I learned, like, number one, how to anticipate her needs, assisting her. And I learned the beautiful gift of tough love, because it's like such a gift to tell someone straight, like,
she's the queen of that, but it's an emphasis on the love part, because she does truly do everything purely out of like love and her want for you to grow and be better. It's never out of frustration or anger.
Exactly. And I feel like as a burnt out salon owner, I've definitely done things out of frustration and anger. But I think that for the most part, with my training that I've done, it's just been like, I just want you to succeed. And I don't want a guest to notice this,
Right.
Like it's intense, being a stylist is intense, and like the whole being professional and manners and like those little things that mean a lot. Like those are the things that like a really good assistant program, a really good mentor will help you get like ahead so much quicker.
Mm-hmm. I fully agree.
Yeah.
Like I said before, it's, it's so tough when you're going through it, and a lot of people don't make it. But looking back, I realize, I see other stylists who don't have training just in professionalism alone, and that was drilled into us. I see that, and I just see such a difference in, their clientele, the way they operate, just their, daily manners. It's kind of crazy to see because of where I came from. I guess I just value that a lot.
Yeah. And I think that's a huge reason why you are so successful and booked. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think that what every stylist wants, as much as they want independence, is security and financial security. I think everybody wants that financial security and independence. And you have both. I don't want to speak for you, but like you're busy, consistent, like you are doing it.
Yeah.
And like, I think that that's what so many people want. And it's like, I love that you say like it took you a while to get there. How long would you recommend somebody assist for?
I mean, me personally, I think my assistant program was about a year, but I did, they sort of, it's kind of like when you're training a dog. I hate to say it that way, but it really kind of is. You have to start with the basics. And once they get the basics down, then you can give them a little bit more freedom, a little more flexibility. And, then you see them, they know the basics, and now they can start to kind of go out on their own, and you give them a little more freedom. So, my assistant program, yes, it was a year long, but I probably started taking clients, within the first 3 months, I would say. But they would limit, like, you have these 5 hours this week to take clients. It's up to you to fill them. So if you don't fill them, then you're not going to get the experience. And so I wanted that because I wanted to move up as quickly as I could. So, they give you a little bit, but you've got to take it and run with it. So yeah, I think learning the basics is so, so important. But you also don't want to have an assistant program where you're not taking clients, because you're not getting the real experience working face to face with people, because that's how you're going to build. You build relationships, and then they're excited to see that you're new and you're growing, and those clients want to refer people to you. So yeah, I think it's very, very important to have an assistant program, kind of like a hybrid system, where you're shadowing, you're assisting, you're maybe doing some like sit down, like classroom time, and then also behind the chair.
Yeah, I love that. I like the sit down in classroom time.
Oh my God, that was the most frustrating for me, I think, because I'm not a school person. I hated school. I hated like sitting down in books and listening to lectures, but I also am a very visual person. And so being able to see on paper certain things that we need to do kind of helped me click. I could just picture like what I saw during our classroom time, and then utilize it when I'm taking a client back to shampoo. I remember filling out the diagram, how we're going to do our massage, the system we use for that. So I think you have to kind of touch on all points. It's really valuable.
And it's like different learning types too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's neglected amazing. A lot. I think a lot of people who do training, the trainers, tend to follow their own learning type when they're teaching. And that's a big missed opportunity.
Yeah. No, you're totally right. So after that salon, you moved on to GBH. And talk about that. No, wait. Oh, you didn't. You went in between. So talk about that.
So my in-between salon, it was a really interesting experience. I was there for 2.5 years. It was nothing like my first salon. It was a lot of moms that had kids, so they had flexible schedules. They kind of came and went. And it was more of a like in and out, like make money, be fast, and do a good job. And I came from a place where like I like to take my time and I book extra time. And so that was really, really challenging for me, especially because I had only known one salon and I was there for 6 years. So when I left and I was thrown in a different environment, I really kind of struggled. And I started to get really stressed because I would run behind. Timing was different. And so I started to kind of think like maybe this isn't what I want to do, because to make more money, you have to be faster and see more clients. It's kind of what I thought was the only option. Yes, I kind of struggled there, but I'm very lucky that my salon owner was super understanding. So she did let me kind of adjust my timing and sort of do my own thing, because I came with a full clientele. They didn't have to give me anybody. So I think she sort of said, you know what, take your clients, do what they know, do what you're comfortable with, do what they're comfortable with. And so that was, it was a good experience. I'm glad I had that.
Everyone followed you.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, well, one, it was next door, which was a little shady maybe, but no, I think mostly it's because just the way I talk to my clients, I value relationship before I value what I do to their hair even. And so I became family to a lot of them.
I see that. Like, if everybody listening, I just want you to know that nobody on the fucking planet gets more Christmas gifts than Bryan.
Lots of wine and cards and cookies and
Nobody gets more Christmas gifts. I'm like jealous. It's like on Valentine's Day if someone gets a lot of flowers or something. I'm like, right. Damn, I need to step my game up. You do. You get like literally in the equivalent. You have those relationships of like you are family to them.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that is? Is do you value their relationship? What do you talk about? You talk about them, their life, or your life?
Yeah, I mean, when you meet somebody new, client or not, you usually start with like boring small talk, right? But I try to get that out of the way as fast as possible. And so I feel like even within a 45-minute appointment, I've really gotten to know my client because I get the small talk out of the way, like in the first 10 minutes. And then it's like, okay, it's not just, oh, do you have any kids? Yeah, cool. It's like, okay, tell me about your kids, because that's what they're most proud of. And then they're going to tell me about like where their kid's going to college. And I say, oh, cool. I know so-and-so who went to the same school. How's their experience? And you just kind of, it's a flow. And I think it's kind of a skill that you just kind of have to have. I think you can learn it, but it's just a conversational skill. And you just kind of focus on what's important to them and talk about that with them. And then it makes them realize that like, hey, I'm not just here to cut their hair. I care about who they are and who they love and who's in their life and what they're going through. I've always been like that. I think I'm a lot like my mom. My mom is like the most talkative, sweetest person I've ever known in my entire life. So I'm a lot like that. But yeah, but it's more about just like trying to fill your time. It's actually going deeper and trying to get to know who are you actually with. So when they walk out the door, you're going to remember them. And I think that's another key is when they come back, I remember them. So I remember what we talked about. And that usually after their second appointment, they're just like shocked. Like, oh my God, you remembered my kid. You remembered her name. You remember what school she goes to. You remembered my vacation I was talking about that I was so excited about. Or, a death I had in my family. You remember to ask me about that. So I think, good conversation skills and a good memory is really the biggest part.
Do you write stuff down?
Never. I've never had to. I guess that's a big tip. I was taught this as a tip. If you have a bad memory, write things down. Put notes in people's files. I have always been gifted with a good memory. I never have to do that. I can meet somebody once and then in 2 months see them again. I'll remember exactly what we talked about. I don't even write formulas down. for anybody.
I never wrote formulas down. At GBH, I made everybody write them down. So like they would chase me down to get my formulas. So I can't say I never have. But when it comes to like, I don't have that like strength with, and I'm like, okay to say that, you know what I mean? Like I'm so focused on their hair, the technique, we're like filming it. And it's like, that is a completely different fucking vibe of an appointment.
Yes.
And a relation. It's like not even as a deep relationship. It's very surface. Like I'm asking them like, do you like Lady Gaga? I'm asking them like, did you watch the Grammys? Like I'm literally like keeping it on the surface and you're going deeper and getting to know them. And that's why I feel like Elise and I were talking about you yesterday because I was just like, oh yeah, guess who my guest on the podcast is? Bryan Boutillier. And she was like, oh my God, ask him how he's never lost a client unless they die. She's like, ask him how he's never lost a client unless they die. And I think that's like an amazing answer though.
Yeah, no, I mean, you know, I've definitely lost a lot of clients. We all do. Some people you just don't vibe with. Some people move away, or like when I've moved away. You know, I think especially with some clients I've had, I could think of a few in particular that when I made the move to another town, it was just a little too far and inconvenient for them. But I already had such a good rapport with them that like I was devastated when I lost a client. But I think because of the way that I build relationships with people, even if they're not in my chair, a lot of them were friends through social media. And we still, even if I don't do their hair, we're still following each other's lives. And that's so important to me. That's honestly my favorite part of this entire industry is the relationships that I build with people. I love it.
Yeah. And you're friends with like all of the people you worked with. Like you have those like long AF friendships and relationships, and you actually like go out to dinner with people and like hang out with them and like you make the time. Like you're totally like relationship driven and it's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's not easy. It takes effort. You know, it takes a lot of effort. But I think, you know, maybe if a coworker I used to work with and haven't worked with in over 5 years, I think about them in just like a little instant. I send them a text and then maybe we set up a dinner date and we go together and then we spend a few hours together. But all it took was that one little second when you think of them to send a text.
You know, that's really great advice because I think of people all the time and I don't text.
Yeah.
Not because I don't want to either. It's just because I'm like, my brain is in 80 different places. You know that. You know me really well. So it's like, but that 1 second of just like, hey, I'm just going to shoot a text.
Yeah. And, you know, it sounds like nothing, but it really, that one little thing, it does take effort. Because if you don't do it, then, you know, maybe another year goes by that you don't talk to that person.
Y'all send a text.
Before you know it. Send a text. If you're thinking of someone, just send a text.
Send a text.
It means a lot.
Is that the name of this? Is that the name of this episode?
Send a text. I love it. If somebody just texts me, one of my friends who I haven't talked to in a while, and they're like, hey, miss you, thinking of you, that makes my day. Like, yeah. Because I realize that they value their relationship with me. And that's what drives me.
I love it. So you went from a place with a lot of structure, a lot of systems. To a place with more freedom, more flexibility, not a lot of structure. And then you moved on. And why did you move on? If you're open, you know, I know I'm just throwing questions at you, but I love your journey, Bryan. And I think that
I love sharing it.
Yeah.
So the salon that I was at, we had one pricing level, and, you know, I respect the owner a lot for having that system, only because she felt like I'm no better than anybody else here. So we all charge the same prices. This is our price for a haircut if you come to the salon. And I think, you know, she is a great person. She's super humble. And so I really have a lot of respect for that. But I also felt like I was so busy. I was fully booked. and these were my prices, I had no more room to grow. So it really was financial growth that I was looking for. And so I went to GBH.
And GBH was a team-based pay salon.
Yes. So that was a whole new topic for me.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about it. I thought it was absolutely crazy. And I thought I was taking a huge leap of faith, which, you know, I was. But yeah, I knew nothing about it.
Well, you worked a lot with strategies because you moved into leadership at GBH. What do you think?
Yes.
Tell me about your experience there. And you can be totally authentic, like you could be completely real. I'd love to know what you think of team-based, especially for like today's world. Like, what are the benefits? What are the cons as an employee standpoint? And even in the leadership standpoint, like what were your challenges with employees? Or anything you'd like to share just on team-based and that the whole experience at GBH?
So, you know, when I first came to GBH, you kind of explain the whole system of like team-based pay and how it works and the benefits and why it benefits, you know, maybe less busy, like newer stylists, why it allows for other benefits that a lot of salons don't offer, paid vacation, paid sick days, education, health insurance. Yeah. I mean, it allowed for a lot of amazing things. And so I do understand it. And it has a place, absolutely has a place in our industry. And, you know, once I started, I think because I came with so many clients within the first month, you were like, whoa, I'm not paying you enough. And you just like threw a ton more money at me. And so I was like, yeah, team-based pay is sweet. But I realized it was because the money that I was bringing in, yes, you were able to pay me more, but it also was allowing for our entire team to experience more than most salons are. So that was really, really cool. Once I kind of saw the value, once I started taking strategies classes, it was super eye-opening. But, you know, I think rental is becoming a lot more prevalent in the industry too. It's very, very tempting. It's very enticing. And because you can make a lot of money. And, you know, the financial freedom and the flexibility and the lack of, I hate to say it, but the lack of having somebody over your head or a boss is, I mean, it doesn't compare to anything.
I mean, I have to be honest, as an independent, like as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, like I couldn't fucking imagine working for somebody else ever again.
Yeah, I would never go back. I wouldn't. So that doesn't mean that you shouldn't experience working for somebody. That doesn't mean you shouldn't enjoy it and do it for your entire life. But for me personally, I would never go back.
Well, you did it as an employee for a decade. You've been renting for 2 years.
Yep.
So you did it for 10 years and you know what, Bryan? I think that one of the big reasons for you, correct me if I'm wrong, you're able to enjoy these deep relationships with your guests. I'm sure you'd be able to enjoy them no matter what, but I'm sure you can go deeper with them because you're so confident in your skill.
Yeah.
Like you're not focusing on like a major, and you know your client. Like you're not taking people who are like 5-hour corrections. You're not doing these like trend services. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your ideal customer. Who's Bryan's ideal customer?
My ideal customer is a middle-aged working woman who has gray. I'm going to do her gray coverage every 4 to 6 weeks. And she's got a short haircut or a bob, maybe likes to come for a blowout on the weekends because she doesn't feel like doing her own hair.
Patty?
Yeah, Patty. Patty is a dream client to anybody. Because she also refers people because she talks about me. Oh yeah. And a lot of people, I have a lot of clients like her, but they will talk about me. They're like, oh my God, I just went and got my hair done. Look how good I look. And they're like, who's your guy? She's like, he's my guy. You'll never get in. Don't even try. You'll never get in. And then they're like, well, now I have to get in. Who is he?
Who is Bryan Boutillier?
Yeah. Yeah, but that's my ideal client. It's just like a middle-aged working woman who is, financially stable, who's going to be consistently coming to see me and refer their friends. It sounds kind of like, ideal to a lot of people, but I think about, a 16-year-old girl coming in who shows me a ton of like pictures from Instagram and Pinterest and wants to be like platinum and all these, crazy things. Like that gives me severe anxiety. I like just sort of like my routine. I like a pattern.
And that's amazing. And you literally live a freaking chill AF, stable. And that's a lot of money because that frequency of visit is way different than those people who come in, demand 6 hours of your time, and you see them once, twice a year.
Yeah. I think that's the other reason why I have good relationships with my clients, because I see them so much. A lot of them I see every 3 weeks. So it's literally like, oh, what's happened in the last 3 weeks? Like I know everything going on in their lives.
It's a completely different vibe.
It is, absolutely.
Of a stylist. It's just a completely different vibe because like when people think of doing hair today, especially if you get out of hair school and you're on Instagram and you look at like what influencers do, even what I do, it's a completely different lifestyle and vibe and work life. Like it's a completely different job.
Yes. And I would not trade it for anything. I think, seeing you as an entrepreneur and everything you do and you've accomplished, and, you work your ass off for everything you have and have accomplished. I could never do it. I don't have the discipline or the energy or even like the want to have that, and that's okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think some people kind of shame somebody who's maybe in my position because, you're like, oh, you're not growing, or don't you want more? Don't you want to be more famous? Like, no, I don't. I just want to have great clients in my chair that I love, who love me, and I can pay my bills doing it.
So have you heard the 6 human needs? Have you heard me talk about this? I don't think
so.
Okay.
I don't think so. No.
So my coaching training that I do through Tony Robbins and Chloe Madanis, it's like this coaching program that I'm working through at this time. And it's based on the 6 human needs. So the 6 human needs are needs that all humans have. So there's certainty. So the need for certainty, comfort, consistency, uncertainty for variety is the spice of life, significance, feeling important, like you matter, like you're making a difference, connection and love, growth and contribution. And they say that the top 2 needs that are yours dictate your whole fucking life. And my top 2 needs, I could send you the quiz if you'd ever feel like taking it. It's super interesting, but I already know what yours are by knowing you. But, and I'm sure if I tell you what I think, you'd be like, duh. But like my needs are growth is number 1 and significance is number 2. So like, I want to feel like when I die that I made like a massive fucking difference to like the world. And I want to feel, and that's my need. You know what I mean? That's not something that everyone has to look up to. That's not like normal. You know what I mean? And it honestly comes from a lot of childhood stuff. You know what I mean? Like it dictates our life. And
for
then
another episode.
Yeah, totally. And then number 1 is growth. So like if I'm not growing, I'm not like, I feel like unfulfilled. It's a little intense. And like, I would say just by talking to you, Bryan, that your top would be connection and love and certainty.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's like, we have 2 completely different lives and we're great friends and we love our lives, and it's just different strokes for different folks. Right.
Yeah.
but it's a completely
Yeah,
different life. And can you see how a stylist with different needs would have a completely different life?
absolutely.
So I
That's
don't
really
think,
cool.
yeah, it's just interesting. And like, the reason I brought that up is because when you said like sometimes people shame a stylist like me, like, don't you want to grow? But like, didn't you just do a price increase?
Mhm.
Yeah. So you're totally growing. It doesn't mean you have to have a billion followers. It's like so different.
Yeah, and I
Followers,
think
sorry, followers is significance.
mhm,
You know what I mean? That's
mhm.
the frequency of visit and connection is those relationships that are like that's like meeting needs in a whole new level.
And that's also growth because even if you're fully booked maybe, but like just by evolving your relationship and advancing your relationship even with one client, you're ensuring even more every time that they're going to stay with you. You're
Totally.
building loyalty. That's growth to me too.
It's 100% growth. And like they say, like if an action or a person can meet all three or can meet three or more of your needs, then it will become addicting. So
Wow.
like it's just such an interesting concept because think about somebody who values the same needs as you and the same needs as me, but they're using unhealthy avenues to meet those needs. That's where my coaching comes
Mhm.
in is like you brainstorm and you try to figure out like how can we replace these unhealthy needs with healthy needs. Like for me with smoking cigarettes, it was certainty,
Mhm.
it was connection with myself, like the
Mhm.
2 minutes with myself, and then even
Yeah.
socially with others. Like that's how I would connect to the team outside is chain smoking and then it just the addiction to nicotine. But because it met three or more needs, that's why it was so hard to quit, even like on top of the nicotine. So that's
Right.
an unhealthy way to meet my need for connection and for certainty. And but there's other healthy ways, you know what I mean? So it's
Mhm.
super interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
And your relationships with your guests, your consultation can meet the need three or more needs. We were just talking about this at my class on Sunday. um, I do like this whole segment about customer loyalty and building relationships and guest experience using the six human needs and trying to like exceed their needs so that all of your clients
Mhm.
become addicted to you. And it's just so
Yeah.
awesome that I talked about it on Sunday and then us talking about it today. I'm just like, I get blown away by it like every time.
Yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah, I love it. So when we were at GBH,
Mhm.
things started to kind of change. And I was like totally inspired by one of my mentors. His name is Victor Val. About,
Mhm.
I was like wanting to close the salon because I was traveling. And it was like, I just didn't want to do it anymore. Like I just wanted my independence too and to be able to follow
Yeah.
my dreams. And me so well. So that's like all in good, you know. But Victor was just like, no, you have to open a rental salon. It has to be 30 chairs and it will be a community. And I was like, okay. And I literally did it. And you were the first person to work at the network
Mhm.
and talk about going rental.
So I think I do want to kind of backtrack a little bit to GBH because I think I felt a little bit pressured to grow and what I thought the only option for growth was. And so I thought, if I can do something else instead of, just pumping out more clients and working more hours and charging more money, I can grow and still be happy. I don't want to kill myself behind the chair. Like I'm still young, but like, I've been doing it for almost 15 years. Like I'm tired.
That was a
I don't
big
want to have
thing.
to.
Yeah, that was a big thing with strategies and with
Yeah.
GBH is when we had people who were doing hair for a long time. Strategies would always say this. I don't know if you remember. They said every person you hire comes with two hands and a free brain.
Two hands and a brain. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's just like, what are you doing to utilize and like embrace their full potential? And you were eventually doing hair, what, 3 days a week?
Yeah, 3 days.
3 days, and you were doing leadership.
Yep. Yeah. So, because I started going to strategies classes, I thought, okay, I definitely can have another role in the industry, in this specific salon even, and not have to kill myself and work like until 9 o'clock at night and then wake up and be there at 9 o'clock in the morning. I didn't want to do it anymore. And so I went into a leadership position, and I saw myself kind of running your salon. That's what I pictured. Like, Gina can go and do her traveling, and I've got everything else. It's good. It's going to be great. But I very quickly realized that although relationships are very important to me, being in a managerial role was, to be honest, my worst nightmare, because I had to be the bad guy, and I hated it.
Remember I had you fire someone? I'm so sorry.
I still think about that to this day.
Do you know how many people I fired? It fucking sucks.
Yeah, it's just not for me. It's for some people, it's not for me.
Well, you know
And
what?
so
It's like the relationships that you have with your guest are like this mutually beneficial, amazing relationship where you're there to serve them. They're,
Mhm.
you're doing their hair, you're providing a service, and it's just extra, the relationship.
Yeah.
When you're in a managerial role, like you need the outcome. Like you're
Yes.
paying people. Like,
Yeah, I think
and
the issue was that I was excited because I had a lot of experience, and I was excited to take these kids who were not kids, but new stylists who were younger than me. I wanted to share what I knew because I saw how much I grew, and I was like, yes, I can share what I'm doing and what helped me. And then they wouldn't take it, or they still wouldn't listen, or they would resist. And I was like, oh, it's not all just like fun and happiness. It's hard.
it's so hard.
Work. It was not fulfilling to me. And so, I knew that you were opening network, and I knew that for, 10 years at least before that, I knew that being with my clients is what really fulfilled me the most. So why wouldn't I do that again?
I have chills. Being with your clients is what fulfills you the most.
Yeah, it does.
And it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Leadership is an extremely difficult job. And I'll even say, like, for me, I have a few employees now. My salon did the best. GBH did the best when we had under 6 employees.
Yeah.
And I think that when you get between 6 and 16 employees, 6 and 20 is really hard to manage. And then once you like get through that and you have like 20 and up, it just gets easier, because it's just like you have to have a solid system. And I think that the hardest thing about having employees is the systems and accountability. And like, just like, especially in a salon, like just trying to make everybody happy. And I think that that was like the hardest thing for me, is because like I was super codependent in my salon. Like I needed everybody to be happy, and I never accepted that like you can't make everybody happy. And like I would try, and like it was just such a difficult experience. And I think that having employees, like I'm still scarred from that. I have a few, and I can manage that.
Sure.
And they know me. And I think my big thing that's different is like I'm super like straight with them, of just like, we don't have to do this. Like it's an opportunity. Like, well, we don't have to do this. And I think that in the industry, especially nowadays when, rental is huge, it's widely known, and salon owners with employees, they always have that fear of being abandoned.
Yeah.
And it's like, makes it even harder. Right. Yeah. But it is intense. And I'm glad that you shared that like experience, because it's not all it's cracked up to be.
No, definitely not. I thought it was the answer to everything. And it was not. And I loved going to the classes and working with strategies. I think it's an amazing company, and they do a lot of incredible things for a lot of people. And I will always credit what I learned there to, partially to helping me with becoming a renter, because I have so much information from them that just helps me know where I need to be numbers wise. That was never a thing. I hated numbers. I hated math. I hated all that stuff. But I kind of grew to learn like, you need to know this stuff and love this stuff because you need to know where you stand. So yeah, I learned a lot. And even as a renter, I take a lot of that with me.
Yeah, I learned so much from strategies.
Mm-hmm.
They helped me so much with my foundation, just
Yeah.
the foundation of just like business. And I hope to
Yeah.
pass that along as like, like how passionate I am about business and helping people. It's like that foundation is so key. And if you don't know where you are on the map, how are you going to grow?
Right.
How are you going to get to where you want to be if you don't even know where you are? So just knowing those numbers. And that was a huge role of yours. We were doing the weekly check-ins with the report cards and like just to have every team member know. And we had like a letter grade, like A, B, C, D, F.
Mm-hmm.
And like, cause hairstylists hate numbers.
Yeah.
For the most part, not all.
Right.
Some. And just to have those tools, and like I'm sure that was like eye-opening for you to be like, okay, this is like
absolutely.
Yeah. And then coaching, oh my God. It's so hard.
Yeah. Coaching is very hard.
It's too much.
Yeah. So implementing what strategies taught me when it came to being like an employee manager, actually implementing that with actual employees, that's where I was like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. But I learned, I tried, I took a chance, and, maybe that's not the path I ended up taking ultimately, but I think what I learned getting me there has also helped me down the path I did end up going. So
it's all for a reason.
Positive experience.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's all for a reason. And I love your journey so much, Bryan. Like, I'm so glad we got to do this because like you've kind of done it all. Like you've had a lot of different experiences in the industry and it all brought you back to what you love to do. And I think that's a beautiful message for anyone listening. It's like this career can take you anywhere, but never forget what it is that really brings you joy.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. So this was amazing, Bryan. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's really fun. And thank you guys so much for listening. Bryan, where can they follow you?
So you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is @bmatthewshair. And you can see some of my really cute little bobs on there. That's my favorite.
Yeah, Bryan is amazing at cutting bobs.
Thank you.
Crispy bobs. I love it. Well, Bryan, I hope you have an amazing day. I know you've got to get to work, and thank you so much for making the time. This was awesome. And thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that you learned something about building a loyal clientele and building those relationships. And I hope that if maybe you're not motivated or maybe you don't value as much as other things, the growth and the grind and the hustle and the XYZ, like there is always a little bit of hustle in everything that we do, but maybe that's not what you're looking for. Maybe being an Instagram famous person isn't what you're looking for. Maybe you do feel as Bryan does and get that joy from your guests, and it's okay. We compare ourselves all the time to people. All of us do. And I really think that this episode, inspired me to just know that there's so many different kinds of stylists. There's so many different ways this job can look, and they're all amazing. And that's why I love our industry so much.
Fully agree.
Love it. Well, thank you guys all for listening. Thank you, Bryan. I hope you all have an amazing day, and we'll see you on the next one.
Hey everybody, I want to remind you before we go that I'm going on tour. So I'll be traveling to 12 cities starting in August and going through November. I'll be going to Tampa, Florida at Smith and Main. I'll be going to Orlando at Educe Salon, Fort Lauderdale, Hair Circus Freaks, Oakhurst, White Opal Hair, Miami, Emilio Briet Salon, Houston, Kaleido Hair, Atlanta, Jacob Kahn Hair, Las Vegas, J. Rua Glam Hair Salon, Salt Lake City at Create the Collective, Claremont, we're coming back to Cut House, and San Diego, we're going to my mentor and coach and idol salon, Rubber Chromiums. We're going to wrap up the tour at home at the Network Salon in Plantsville for a hands-on class. It's going to be awesome. This class covers foiling, foliage, toning, pricing, consultation, Q&A, business, boundaries, everything. We are going to go in, and it is going to be so much fun. I cannot wait to meet you all. If you want to get a ticket, feel free to click the link in my bio on Instagram, or as always, you could visit thenetworksalon.com. Hope to see you on tour.
Thank you for listening to the Gina Bianca podcast.
This episode is produced by Alora Media.